Welcome to the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. We want to welcome you back to our show, our episode this week. We have enjoyed doing this, myself and my co host, Dr. Dave Peltz. We have enjoyed doing this, having this time to share our experiences and knowledge with you. So I just want to introduce my co host, Dr. Dave Peltz. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing most excellent. Thank you, Dr. Joe Hamlett, for the introduction.
Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about businesses. So, what I mean, or what I'm referring to is, becoming a small business owner. So, have you ever considered that in your past? Have you ever thought you might want to be a business owner? And what does it take to do that, or make that step, or to move into that space? So me and Dave are here to share kind of some of our experiences and lessons learned and things like that. So buckle up, whether you're listening to the podcast or watching the YouTube channel. But we want to get you going. So I'm going to start off with, so Dave, what does it take to start a business?
Thank you, Joe, for asking that wonderful question. So what does it take to start a business? So one of the tips that we can provide right off the get-go here is let's talk about headspace. Where's your head at? Is this something that you've been thinking about for, let's say, 5 minutes? Or is it something you've been thinking about for, let's say, 5 years? There's a big difference between 5 minutes and 5 years. Not that Joe and I can have done either of those things. But, procrastination does have some negative effects. So starting a business is not as tough or as challenging or as hard or difficult as people think. It's actually quite easy. The biggest thing, though, is, again, your headspace. Where is your head at? What are you passionate about? What are you interested in? What are you good at? And what type of commitment are you going to put forth towards starting your business or having a business? And there are different things that we can think about when we talk about headspace, like I've just mentioned. So is this a hobby that you want to do more than just a hobby with? Let's say it's art, or maybe it's wood crafting, or maybe it's working on cars, or helping other people with writing or editing or accounting or finances. I mean, it's just the gamut's out there, really. So what is it that you're interested in, and are you good at it? And do you enjoy it? That's the other thing. Do you enjoy it? Landscaping, I mean, you name it, So headspace, are we good at it? So we found something that we're interested in. What do we want to do now? Do we want to talk about it? Do we want to think about it? Yes and yes. You want to think about it. You want to talk about it. Talk to your network, your support network. Talk to a few friends and colleagues. Say, hey, what are your thoughts about if I had a business? Is this something that you'd be interested in, or someone like you would be interested in?
Yep.
Underwater basket weaving is a passion of mine. Not sure that there's a huge market for it. Could I start a business? Absolutely.
Yep.
Would it be profitable? Who's to say? It's, that depends upon marketing, your network of clients, who that is interested in the products that you weave underwater. So what's your headspace? Where are you at? Joe, what are your thoughts on headspace so far as starting a business?
So that's probably the biggest obstacle that you're going to face. We talked about this in several episodes ago about overthinking. And as you said, with headspace, that's exactly what it comes down to, because you start thinking, well, I've got to get a website. I've got to get business cards. I've got to get a space. And then as I've said, overthinking, you talk yourself out of it because you think you have to have all these things to start a business, and you don't. Like you say, starting a business is easy.
Joe, I'm going to interrupt. What's the one thing you need to have to start a business?
The one thing you need to start a business?
A business license.
Well, yeah. And I mean, that goes back to what you said about, it being easy. That's really all you need. But we get so wrapped up in, It's got to look great. Our website's got to be there. We got people are going to be coming to me. Why are they going to come to me? So this website has to be, absolutely spectacular. My marketing has to be spectacular. I need to make sure that, like you said, if it's underwater basket weaving, I got to have clients. So yeah, the easiest part, you're right, is the business license. For most states, it's not that expensive. In our state, it's only about $50. Um, and so if you can afford that to secure a license, then you're off and running. And so the other part of it is, again, just now starting to formulate those things, what's important. And so Dave said it before, research is what you're going to do. Is your business, is it going to be something that other people want? Like you say, underwater basket weaving, there may be only 2 or 3 people in the world that may be interested in that. So you have to find your niche, those people that you want to, whatever your service is or your product is, who's going to buy it. So yeah, just because you like it, you enjoy it, that doesn't mean you're going to have people, you build it and they will come. That's not necessarily the case. You have to find that group of people that are going to appreciate your business, and it could be your passion, it could be something that you're good at, but either way, it has to be something that you're willing to commit a lot of time to it. And I think that's, we'll probably talk about this a little bit later, but you can start a business. You can start a business with a full-time job, but for that business to be effective, or you'd be able to make money at it, you're going to have to commit some time to it. So if you're working a normal 40-hour job and then trying to come home and work on that part-time business, that could be a challenge. So those are some of the things that you should consider if you're thinking about starting a business. Are you going to have the time to fully commit to that business?
Yeah, that's a great point, Joe. Let's talk about time for a minute. So some of us are thinking, well, I don't have time. And Joe and I would argue that you do have time. It's just how you prioritize your time.
Yep.
And for those of you that are, maybe you have a part-time job, maybe you're working full-time. So let's go through a couple scenarios. One, you're not working, you're in between work, or you've retired or what have you, but you don't have any full-time job commitments. 2, you're working part-time. 3, maybe you're working multiple jobs. 4, you're going to school and working. 5, maybe you have extended hours because you're salaried or you're working multiple jobs. So where do you find this time? That's a good question. Joe and I can't tell you where to find the time. There's only 24 hours in a day. What we can do is talk to you about time and time commitment. Like Joe said, you have to be willing to put some time into this. And you can think of it as a part-time job. So for those people that have gone to school or gone to training academies or have had part-time jobs in addition to full-time jobs, it's that sort of commitment. You want to plan on, anywhere from 5 to 20 or 30 hours a week. 5 to 30 is a good range. It's part-time.
Yep.
It could be a couple hours a week. It could be multiple hours a week. So just carving out that time and understanding it's going to take time to do it. So where do you find that time? It could be in the mornings before you go to work. It could be in the afternoons or evenings after you get off work, similar to going to school or having a part-time job. Where do you work that into your normal full-time schedule? If you're not working, then our question is, why not start your own business if that's something you're interested in doing? Because there's plenty of hours in the day to work on your business.
Right.
If you're looking for work, maybe looking for jobs takes 2 to 10 hours or 20 hours a week. What are you doing with the other 20 to 30 hours a week? Put it towards something productive. If you're passionate about underwater basket weaving, then when you're not doing your normal activities, you're producing your underwater baskets, or maybe a price list or contacts that you can reach out to. So use your time smartly. And to Joe's point a few minutes ago, stop overthinking shit. Joe and I have said that. We have a podcast on overthinking shit. It's called Overthinking Shit. Stop overthinking shit. Just do it. It's not difficult to do. It's not challenging. It's not hard. To Joe's point, to start a business in most states is 50 to maybe $200.
Yep.
And it takes anywhere from 5 minutes to, an hour or two to get your paperwork together and submitted. The longest part for most pieces of starting a business when you're registering with the state, again, is time. It's that waiting period. Some states you get your license within a matter of minutes or hours. Sometimes some states require you to take additional steps, and it can take a week or 2 or 3 to actually complete the process. So again, manage your time and think about what you can do to maximize the efficiency of that time towards your business. As long as you're moving forward, this is something that Joe and I tell
Right.
each other every day. As long as you're moving forward and doing something towards your business goal, then that's positive progress. And the other thing that we talk about time is take time for yourself every week. So if you're really going
Right.
at it and you're doing 20 hours a day for your business, you have to take time off during the week.
Right.
1 day minimum, 2 days is ideal, together, spread out, whatever. Pace yourself because you don't want to get burned out on something that you love to do. That's the last thing you want to do, is turn something you love into something that you dislike. So,
And that's the challenge for most people. Me and Dave talked earlier before we got on, on this podcast. That's what I had to do Friday. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, things okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good. I just got to take a break." And that's all part of it, because yeah, if you're working a full-time job and then you're trying to commit, 5 to 20 hours a week on your business, that's going to be a lot of time that you're contributing to, both of those entities. And then if you have a family, it's not fair to them if you don't take that time. But your brain is gonna, go on overload if you don't take that downtime. That's a necessity. And
mhm.
up to this past Friday, I had been doing something every day toward, business related, and so I think it finally caught up on me, or caught up to me on Friday, and so I had to take some downtime, and get out. Me and the wife went out and did a little bit of shopping, and then Saturday I came back. Yesterday I came back and I was ready to go. But that is all important to, make sure you're balancing between, if you're going hard at it, like Dave said, take a day off, take a couple of days off if you need to, but you gotta, regenerate those juices, so that you can come back fully refreshed, the next time you go at it.
Mhm.
But I also want to throw in there, we talk about time and contributing something to your business every day or moving forward. I go back to goal setting. So
Absolutely.
creating a plan of what that looks like for you. So say you start a business today, you're working a full-time job. Are you going to create some type of timeline to let you know that you're making progress? So say today you start your business, in 5 years, are you going to be able to walk away, or are you going to set yourself up to a point where you can't walk away, if that's your plan, or even 10 years, whatever your plan is? But uh, that's also the opportunity for you to set those milestones in front of you, so that you know that you're working towards something, and then you realize when you have reached those particular milestones you set for yourself. Because it doesn't make sense if you just, continue to do something every day. There's got to be an end state, whether that is, going full time with your business, or continuing it to some degree as a part-time business. But you have to have some type of plan. And I
Mhm.
think, yeah, it's great to have the idea that I'll do something every day, but you also have to have some type of timeline, or some type of, measure against where you're trying to go, because you could end up with a part-time business for 15 or 20 years, and never go any further than that, which is okay if that's what your plan is. But if you
Mhm.
intend on, turning this into your full-time, um, employment, or, become a full-time business owner, then you got to, set some goals on how you're going to get there. And so that, I think, as Dave talked about, yeah, it's great to do something positive every day towards your business, but at the same time, you got to set some limits, some goals, some time limits on when you want to accomplish those things. So I just want to throw that in there, um, along with, accomplishing something every day, but you also got to have some type of end state.
Yeah, those are great tips to pass on, Joe. So let's talk about taking action. So and making your business actionable. So um, let's say I want to start a basket weaving business. I've got my license, but I'm thinking now I'm thinking to myself, well, how do I make it actionable? How do I take action towards that? What do I, what do I do now? How do I market it? How do I sell it? How do I convey what I have to other people? So what you're going to want to do to make your business actionable is to come up with let's say 1 to 4 or 5 things at a high level that you're doing. Is it a product, or is it a service, or is it both? And if, let's say it's a service or product, let's say it's basket weaving. Okay, so what types of baskets? Is it big, medium, and small baskets? Is it, you know, baskets with lids or without lids? If it's a service, is it what type of service? Is it like, well, I do coaching, training, and consulting and mentoring? Well, that's 4 things. Okay, so there's your 4 high-level buckets, or your 2 high-level buckets. That's the starting point for making things actionable, because from there, everything else starts trickling down. So you've got your 3 or 4 high-level buckets. What are a couple of things within those buckets? So I have small, medium, and large baskets. Okay, in your large baskets, do you have plain, striped, and geometric, let's say? So those are the 3 types of baskets. From there, you can associate pricing, and the pricing should be based upon the scope and complexity of the service, or scope and complexity of your pricing, or I'm sorry, the product. Either the scope and complexity of the price. I'm gonna pause for a moment. Scope and complexity of your product or service. So that's the simplest way to do it right there. That you've taken action. The rest of your business starts building out from there. You flesh it out. You develop your spreadsheets if you want spreadsheets for costing, track your expenses. And it's like building, to our point a couple episodes ago, writing a book or any other project. Create a short little outline and start working to it. Take action. What comments do you have for making your business actionable, Joe?
So one of the things, I took a class on how to start a business, and one of the things, very first thing we worked on was a business plan.
There's a great
Very
idea.
similar to your point. It's basically an outline of what you want to accomplish with your business. And so it helps you with, like you say, creating your cost structure, even as far as your location, the intent behind the business, what products, what services do you offer? That is probably a very good place to start, because it'll help you figure out, why do I want this business? What type of business? Is it even legitimate? Is it even something that makes sense? So creating a business plan will help you with that, because like you said, it's like an outline. It'll help you figure out whether it makes sense. In your head, it make total sense to create these baskets, but then when you start to write it down, you start looking at the cost structure. How much is it going to cost to make this basket? It may cost more than people are willing to pay. So when you create that business plan, it's going to help you really think through if it makes sense to start that business. If I'm going to have the right amount of money, am I going to have the space for it? Do I need an office building? Do I need equipment? And it's going to help you identify all those things. And at the end of the day, you may come back and say, wow, looking at this business plan, or this proposed business plan, it doesn't make sense. I can't afford to do this. And so starting with that business plan, before you actually, might even be a good idea before you actually even go get your business license, because you may, pick out this great name for this business. Dr.
Taken.
Joe's basket weave. Exactly. So,
Yeah.
so I would recommend, and that's part of the research piece, reaching out to those resources where you can look up names that have already been used and things like that. Do all that before. And that was part of that training too. Look and see if that name exists. And then think about too, when you're thinking about a name, this just really came to me. Think of a name that, say your business gets big. Is it going to be a household name? Are people going to want to say, so your name was Dr. Joe Hamlett Basket Weaving. So if I sell that to somebody else, are they going to leave it as Dr. Joe's basket weaving, or that may be the name that's built, but there's no identity for that new owner. So that's a very important thing to think about when you're thinking about a name, or you might think of this cutesy name that only you know. So just think about those types of things. That, like I said, that just came to me. But yeah, I think starting with a business plan, an idea, writing it down, start, like you said, create that outline. What does it look like? And like I say, after you go through that exercise, you may realize I need to tweak some different things. I may need to think along a different line. So I think, yeah, it's easy to go out and just sign up on the website and get your license. But I think a lot of those things need to be considered before you actually do that. Beside the website, business cards, and all those types of things, but just really think about the name, whether it already exists, and then try and think through as much as you can with creating a business plan and an outline of what that business looks like. So I
Yeah,
think
and
that's a very
keep
good
the
start.
focus and keep the focus narrow. You don't want to try to save the world. You know,
Right.
I was listening to a show several months ago, and it's about a recording artist. And you know, we've all heard the advice before in our past, but I thought the timing was rather interesting when I heard it. The gentleman was saying uh, his dad had told him, "Son, do whatever you want, but just do it well, and do one thing and do it well. Don't try to do everything. Don't try to play every type of music. Play one type of music that you love and just do it the best you absolutely can." And that's important to keep in mind too. You know, Joe and I would love to save the world with what we have to offer, but the the, the reality is
Right.
we picked our focus for a reason, because one, it's what we can affect and what we're passionate about. So think about that. So let's transition over to want versus need for your business. Um, got a few minutes left. So want versus need for what you want with your business. So Joe and I had mentioned websites, business cards. Do you need a website? No, you don't need a website.
No.
Is it helpful? Sure. What kind of website? Go online. There's just thousands of them out there to look at. And there are plenty of services that will either develop them for you or that you can develop yourself. Great tools, but not a necessity in most cases. Business cards, not necessarily a necessity. Again, not necessarily things that you need to have, more nice to have. There hopefully will come a point when you will need a website and marketing
Right.
materials, but to start, you generally don't. Um, what are some other things that are nice to have versus want to have? Um, Brochures,
Right.
books,
Right.
pamphlets, you know, the best computer equipment, you know,
Right.
you don't need all these things to start a business typically. Again, it depends on what you're starting. If you're starting a podcast, you are going to need some basic things like a computer, microphone, cameras, so lighting, but you don't need to have all these things. Most computers come with microphones and cameras these days.
Yeah.
So think about what you need to have versus what you want to have. If you're, let's say you're creating a catering business, do you need a chainsaw? Probably not, but it is a nice to have.
Right. Right. Or even
So
like you say, in that regard, as a caterer, do you actually need a van that has your, name splattered across the
yeah,
side of it, or can you do with just a card to start with? Because that's the other thing, you get potentially have this grand idea, and then like you say, you start to cater to those wants, and you go out and take out a loan to get a van, to get all this a website built and all those things, and it's not needed, and then your business flops, and now you owe this loan. So what
mhm,
you said, the bare minimum of what's going to allow you to do what you want to do, as to start. Now, if you start to make money, you start setting money aside for those types of things. That's great. But at the very beginning, you don't need the fanciest things. You don't need all the equipment. It may be helpful, but at the same time, you don't want to dig yourself into a hole if it's not needed at that time. Eventually, hopefully, you can expand and grow, and it will dictate that you need to upgrade and do those types of things. But to start, That's a very good distinction. Make sure it's a need and not a want. I mean, that's a very good one.
Um, so in the last few minutes, I want to just kind of let's button this up. This is not necessarily the happy feel good piece of it, but it is are a couple things that you need to be conscious of, if nothing else, and that's the legal and financial obligations. So there are going to be the financial pieces. So you're going to need to track your expenses and profits for tax purposes. We're not condoning tax evasion and not paying your taxes. Absolutely
Right.
not. You have to do those things. Attorneys and for like legal paperwork, not required but helpful. But there are, again, services and websites and places you can go on the internet to get documents, whether it's contracts, non-disclosure, non-compete. Maybe it's just a contractual agreement for services, a service agreement.
Right.
So there are those things out there. Do you need an attorney? Probably not, but it's not a bad idea if you can afford it or know someone to provide a little legal advice. There are plenty of free services out there through the Small Business Administration within that's out there. Again, going back to the financial piece, just track your expenses, track your mileage if applicable, track your profits, any fees that you get, and track your pro bono stuff, because sometimes folks are going to want to open up a nonprofit or not for profit, and that's a little bit different financial structure. You can reach out to a certified public accountant, a CPA, or some other person that you might know in your support network that has a little bit of financial background, just to become aware. Again, plenty of services out there for free. You don't have to pay for this stuff. So with that, that's all I have to say.
No, you said a lot, and so I think my take on this is if you are going to start a business, great. Just make sure you understand that there's requirements, like Dave said, the financial and other things like that, but also don't overthink it. He said that earlier too. If you really want to start a business, don't get wrapped around things that have to be accomplished, because like you said, you can go out and pick up a license fairly cheap. That's not the hard part. The hard part, again, is to identify your customers, your niche, what you're going to be selling, your product or your service, and then separating your funds, things like that, the financial piece of it, whether you need legal advice. So yeah, it's easy to start a business, but you really have to consider all those things. Make sure you create a business plan. Make sure your idea is going to float. So just a lot of things to consider. Versus just saying, hey, I'm going to start a business. Really think about it, research, do those types of things, so that down the road you're not regretting your decision, or get yourself into some situation where it's going to be hard to recover. So that's why I just want to make sure people are aware. Yeah, it's great to start a business. Myself and Dave have done that, but there's a lot that goes into it. So if you're going to start a business, we just don't want you to overthink it. But do put some thought and consideration into what you're about to, endure.
Don't procrastinate. If you want to do it,
Right.
do it. Get it started, and just have a plan. And
Right.
it doesn't have to
Be
be a
smart
complex
about it.
plan. Be smart
Yep.
about it, like Joe just said. Have a plan and do it. Just do it, literally, and no copyright infringement. Hopefully, there, just simple words.
Right.
but stop waiting,
Yep.
and get started and manage your time and make it happen. Make your dreams come true.
Yep.
All right,
That's
Dr.
it for
Joe,
me.
take us home. Take us home.
Hey, well, again, thanks for tuning in to this particular episode of the podcast. And if you are enjoying the topics we're discussing, please subscribe. And if you have topics you want us to discuss, feel free to drop comments in either whatever platform you're listening or viewing. But we absolutely enjoy doing this weekly. So with that, we just want you to continue being your not so ordinary you. Until next time.